as the vital life force. Uh, Before I start this session, I would just request each and every one of you to um, just take a little insight of what prana is in the yogic field that we do, because I have realized this as I had been practicing meditation for more than 30 years of my life. And because I got into this field of yoga while I was in IT and other management fields, I realized that the only difference between what we study and what we experience is very thin line. And I am just trying to put my experience into the knowledge that I had gained. And obviously, Ayush ministry subject, if you take the Ayush ministry subject, it is so beautifully designed that any newcomer, any new person who has just got into this yoga because of whatever reasons they couldn't do before, gives them that opportunity to excel. And uh, like we say, Guru is a very important person in our life. I had been blessed with a lot of gurus in my life, and over a period of time, I've always been helped and given that kind of an opportunity. But here, I would like to thank each and every one of you, especially Vijay sir, for doing this platform, because this not only helps us to enhance ourselves, but it also gives you a bigger perspective of what and how it has to be done. So, not taking much of your time, let's start with the understanding of prana in yoga, the vital life force. Okay, so as we all know, we always start with a prayer. And when we are talking about prana, there is no way we cannot start without the prayer. So I would request all of you to understand this prayer while we first resonate the prayer. So it is प्राणस्येदं वशे सर्वं त्रिदिवे यत् प्रतिष्ठितं मातेन पुत्रान् रक्षस्व श्रीश्च प्रज्ञाश्च विदेहिन इति ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Now, like the way we understood this prayer, it talks about Pranasedam Vashe Sarvam. Tridive Yat Pratishtitam. That means it is saying that the prana is not only governing you, but it is also governing the three lokas. And it is saying that in this prayer, like the way the mother takes care of the child, because the child is very innocent, the child doesn't know what to do. In the same way, we all are like children, we don't know what is the reason why we are born and how we are born, and what is the reason where we need to move ahead in our life. So prana is the force which can always take you towards the right direction and guide you. And when that happens, obviously you prosper, not only in your materialistic world, but obviously at your intellect world. So intellect world here is the cosmic world, is what we're talking about. Now we will keep this prayer in our mind for some time now, because the entire subject revolves around this, and let's unlock the bigger picture of prana here. So like we know that when we had spoken about prana, how did I come to know, or how did we even come to know about this prana? So prana is a fundamental concept in Hindu philosophy, mentioned in ancient texts like Upanishads and Vedas. It is the universal life force connecting to the individual and the cosmic energy. Now, what are we talking about? It's saying that it's connected to us as an individual, and it's connected to the cosmic consciousness. Then, where do we find these details? So, we're not talking about somebody has written some kind of novel and then we are reading it. These are very smriti and shrutis that we are talking about, which are the texts that are coming from Chandogya Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Manduk Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, and certainly it is also well beautifully elaborated in Bhagavad Gita, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Hatha Yoga, Giranya Samhita, Samkhya philosophy, and Ayurveda. There are many more other texts that I have not given here, because no matter how much we give, we will always fall short of giving explanations of that. And because every single person who is here has a profound knowledge about something or other, like some is very profound in Hatha Yoga, some is very profound in Girana Samhita, some is very beautifully, I heard the beautiful conversations about Patanjali Yoga Sutra. The other day, the person spoke about Bhakti Yoga. Then we had people speaking about the sports and yoga, how beautifully everything was related. So, no matter how many examples we give here, it is always going to be less. Now, so let's begin with a very beautiful small story here. This is coming from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In this Upanishad, there is a sixth chapter which is called the Khila Kand. In Khila Kand, they are talking about the karmas and prana upasana. Now, upasana means what? Upasana means you are from inside, you are praying to it, isn't it? And upa means being very close, and asana means to be seated. So we are very closely trying to sit towards the prana and try to understand what it is. And we are trying to understand the role of the karmas as per the prana upasana. So let's try to understand that all these entities, the our sense organs, imagine them as independent individual entities, and let's see what happened at the macro level when how prana is the life principle. How do we understand that prana is a life principle? So very beautifully in Upanishads, also in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, they had explained this in a very story form, very beautifully. So each sense organ claimed to be very important. So every sense organ, like the eyes, the ears, the nose, the smell, the touch, the skin, all these, they said that we are independent entity and we will be the one who will be governing the human body. So then they went to Brahma. They went to Brahma to resolve it. Now, when they went to Brahma to resolve it, each organ. So Brahma said, "Okay, let's find out who is very important and without whom this human body cannot run or the sense organs cannot run properly." So each organ left the body for a certain duration, for a certain period of time. While each body left for a certain period of time, that particular absence of that sense organ did not make a very big difference in a human person. Like they could very easily survive. So survival was very easy in spite of not having. Like a person who is blind can still survive. A person who is deaf can still survive. A person who cannot speak can still survive. A person with certain deficiency can still survive. But then each found out that they at their own absence the survival was possible. Then prana just tried to leave. So we all know when prana tries to leave, what happens, right? But then all the sense organs started drifting and drawn away. That means they started feeling lifeless and they started feeling very suffocated. So it was understood that without prana, nothing can move. So they fell to prana's feet and requested not to leave the body. So we understand that for our any function of our sense organ, prana is very important. So how do we identify a person? Like there is vital energy everywhere. We say breathing is prana, right? But think about it, there is air around us. The first thing a person is being checked, when you check a person, what do you say? Iske pran to nikal gaye. So we always talk about pran. Why do we talk about pran, and why is this word so familiar whenever we have to address it between a life and a death, right? So there is a reason why we do that. Now, so what do we understand by this story? Let's try to get it together and understand it little more deeper. So the argument, now when the argument of this happened, organs in the human conditions competed for attention without any integration. So we understood that first thing is that these sense organs are not integrated. They always fight for that attention. So, some person is a good listener, some person is a good speaker, some person is a good observer. You will always see that you're always good at one thing. But who is a person who excels all this? The one who excels in all this is a person who can bring all his sense organs to a still and just reflect only at one point. That is called ekagrata, isn't it? So we always talk about concentration and focus. So without deviating, let's come back to this one. So here the prana reveals its essential role and its vital force. Like it is revealing that its energy is the reason why the function is happening, and with that departure, the sense organs will not work. So the story also implies that controlling our facilities, that means our sense organ is necessary to master over prana. So the vice versa, it is understood that to keep them under control. So when we withdraw ourselves, only then we can actually master over the prana. We are not taking complete control over prana, but we are trying to master it. There's a difference here. Now, when we are trying to say that positive transformation in the body and the mind are interdependent, and that is understood by prana. So the energy that drives through this operation is called karma. So please understand that when we are talking about positive transformation, so positive transformation can only happen in body and mind when you have the withdrawal of your senses and you're focusing on prana. So there is a deeper understanding here, and when you have this, obviously whatever deeds you do with the sense organs are normally called as karmas, right? So if you are deeply driven towards prana, then you're very aware of what you're doing as your karmic act. Then it also emphasizes the interconnection between the sense organ and the prana. Obviously, we just saw how it is interconnected. Now, control over prana is presented as a crucial for achieving harmony between the efficiency within ourselves. So, first thing is we always talk about self-awareness. We want to become ekagrat. We want to transform ourselves, vidya and unattachment. There are so many things we talk in yoga. But then the first most important thing is very crucial is prana. If you're present in your prana, only then you will achieve harmony. And when you achieve that harmony, only then you become efficient within yourself. No matter what you do, but if you do not achieve this, then that harmony is temporary. So temporarily you will be feeling good, temporarily you will be feeling out of that situation, temporarily you will feel that you've resolved certain issues within yourself, and so and so. But certainly only in the presence of prana, only when you know how to do this, then the harmony is a long term, and somewhere we also understand it as bliss. Now, understanding prana works providing insight to enhancing the holistic well-being, and any holistic well-being you talk about, if you do not know prana, then every holistic approach that you do will be temporary. Unfortunately, what happens in our field is when we are helping someone, let's take an example of meditation. A person, till that person is coming to your sessions, that person is feeling very nice. But the minute that person is on its own, that meditation doesn't work for that person. Then I don't understand what kind of services we provide at that point of time, right? Because if I'm going for any service, I would look for it that I have imbibed it within me. So maybe this part is missing when we do our meditations, and this is something that I realized because over a period of time, I realized that this was intact, and so whatever we do goes for a long run, right? Now, mastery over prana is depicted as a pathway to holistic transformation and self realization. Now, when we talk about holistic transformation or self realization, understand that we are talking about dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. But before that, this particular mastery over prana happens way before in every step of our life. So, if you look at a person, that person's decision making, that person's approach towards life, that person's behavior at right and wrong situations, that person's intake of many things, whatever that person is using as a sense organ, if he is in that transit of mastery over prana, his way of everything differs from the person who doesn't have a control. So you will always understand that if this person has a genuine effect in your holistic transformation or not. And only a person who's self realized can tell you what self realization is. Now, This is one of the most beautiful shloka that I have seen in Hatha Yoga Pratipika, in which it talks about the breath very beautifully connected to mind. So obviously this shloka which says chale vate chale chittam nischale nischalam bhavate. In this, what he's talking about is he's telling that when the breath is steady and controlled, the fluctuations of the mind are also steady, allowing for greater focus, clarity, and integration of our senses. Now think about it. Let's take two examples. When do you realize that your breath goes very high? Maybe you are in stress and you got to know that this is a work that we had to do. Or let's take an example that when you get to know today is your presentation and now you're breathing very hard, right? So it gives you a little kind of a exhausting kind of a feeling, but sometimes this is good, isn't it? Feeling that little anxiety is good, but beyond that is not good. So everything in balance force is good. Now, what we are talking here about is when your breath is steady and controlled. So let's take an example of when you're climbing a mountain. You run out of breath. Your breath is not steady, but your body, because your body is very relaxed, you will see that the pranic energy realizes that you have this kind of breathlessness because you are happy about climbing a mountain. But the same thing, if you are traveling, you need to reach a place and you're running out of time, your breath is very different. You get very exhausted. So there are two things when we talk about breath is steady, it's not just only about slow breathing. It's also about the intensity of the way you're breathing in it. So the steadiness comes with your mind also. So, we are not only breathing with our nose, we are breathing at a very higher level at our manomaya kosha. So what is getting transmitted to your manomaya kosha is very important here. And that's why when you say your breath is connected to your mind, think about it that if I'm sitting here and I'm breathing very calmly, but I'm very upset in my mind, yeah, how is it going to help me? So we always fall trap for it. It might give you benefit at Annamaya Kosha, but when we talk about Manomaya Kosha, when we talk about the Vijnanamaya Kosha, or when we talk about something that has to transform from your Manomaya Kosha to your Annamaya Kosha, it will not work. And that is the reason why you will feel only clarity temporarily. When everything is good, you will say, no, no, I'm very clear with my thoughts. Let somebody upset you, and your thoughts will run out of the window in the first minute. So this is very important for us that when we say that if we can control our mind through our breath, we need to understand first what is the pattern that we are breathing, what is the realistic life we are living. And that's the reason why in Patanjali also we'll see, before he speaks about the pranayam, he has already spoken about yamas and niyamas. So he says when you do yamas, niyamas, which is the discipline outside and inside, you will always realize what are the reasons why your fluctuation of breath happens. First, you eradicate that. Then, obviously, at your Annamaya Kosha, there are layers of it that you do with kriyas and all this, and you get your manomaya to a steadiness. When you get your manomaya to a steadiness, and then you practice your pranayam, you will see beautiful results, and these results will be permanent and not temporary. Now, this illustration is interconnected to our internal process and suggests harmony in the life force within us as prana. So we are talking about two things here. One is it is interconnected. Now, when we're saying interconnected, what are we connected to? And when we say life force is prana, we are addressing it something that must be inside us, right? Because when we say, oh, इसके प्राण निकल गए, that means what? That person is not alive. That means there is a life force that is keeping that person alive. But what are we saying it is getting interconnected to? Let's find even that, and how we can connect to it also is very important. Now, when we say positive, now we heard about it, right? That we should be very positive. So when you do yamas, niyamas, you'll become positive, or you'll try to become positive. Try to be positive, and when you're So when we are in a positive state, what happens? We do have all these things, that we believe in the system, we get very motivated, we are very confident, we are happy, we are very enthusiastic. Nobody can, then we start having all those nice quotes coming around us, and we believe in those quotes, that we get inclined towards those kind of quotes that you see social media these days. Now, understanding the flow of prana within us is the key to unlock the positive transformation in both body and mind. So it's very important that first you have to move towards your positivity, and that cannot be done by anyone. It has to be done by you with complete discipline. And that's the reason why even in yoga, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the first thing he talks about is niyamas. He says, if you don't have anushasanam, if you don't have discipline of your own, this cannot happen. So when you are disciplined, obviously you are moving towards the positive transformation in your body and mind. Now, by controlling the prana, one gains mastery over the mind and senses. So first thing is you're ready to transform. Second is you're trying to get mastery over it. Now, mastery doesn't happen because you have been, if you've joined a meditation session and maybe 15 days you did your meditation, you won't get mastery over it. But you will start having a transformation. So some people are in the positive transformation for 15, 20 years, and some people might be only in 2 years and they've mastered over their mind and senses. So these are two big different things where we need to understand that are we in a transit or have we mastered over it? Right now, pranayam is the yogic practice. So now here we are introducing pranayam as one of the practices to control and regulate the breath, to enhance the flow of prana in our body. Now, when we talk about pranayam, obviously we have everything beautifully organized and explained in all the sutras, even in the books that we have from Vijay sir and everybody. It's amazingly placed, step after step. Everything is very beautifully done. But if you don't practice it, uh, no matter what happens, how beautifully that book is done, if you don't practice, you will never be able to even appreciate the value of that book, isn't it? So, pranayam is obviously a practice, and it can be done because prana is active and passive both. So even if you're not practice pranayam, you're still breathing, and that is called the passive breathing. And when you actively transmit it towards the direction of positivity, you enhance it to another level. And that is a boon given to a human being to even understand it in first place and then put it in implementation and practice. Now, in yogic and meditative practices, this is a focus on regulating the breath to control the mind. So obviously, it is given in our yogic textures, and it is a meditative practice. Now let's understand what we understand by this of cosmic and universal. Now, when we say yoga is the union of individual consciousness with a universal consciousness, what does it mean? So, a union can only happen or be possible when you're a part of it, isn't it? If I'm saying that I want to unite with a group of nice people, I need to be like minded. And that is when I can be a part of this team, isn't it? So, the same thing, if we are saying, we are always talking about this individual consciousness and universal consciousness. But what is it actually? And where do I see it? Where do I find it? So here, the union can only be when we're a part of it. Now, yoga is the science to make us realize. So what is yoga? Yoga is like a science. It's a guideline that, if you do this, you will be able to realize the universal energy which is lying inside us, within us. And how do we understand this at a very basic level? So we say, we're feeling very tired, so we take water. We say, oh, I'm feeling very low today, so then you take sweets, right? Because you want to increase your energy. And when you fall short of breath, what are different ways that you look at it as energy? Sometimes when you're running, you start breathing heavy. When you're very tired, you yawn. When you feel very uncomfortable, what do? Normally, when you're sitting and you say alas aa raha hai, what do? You stretch your hands. Stretching of your hands means what? You wanting to inhale a lot of oxygen, and that is through breath. So obviously we understand that there is energy in us, and that can be done by these different components like food, water, breath, and all this. Now, in all these forms of getting energy, there is a universal energy which is manifesting. So, understand, when we consume something, through that, the pranic energy is being manifested. Now, that's one of the reasons why Ayurveda, very beautifully, they constantly say, talk about diet. You know what you had 10 years back, you cannot have it today. And what you're having today, maybe you might not be able to have it another 15 years, because you're changing. And with the change of the body, you certainly enhance certain kind of inclination, or you get into an allergy with something. So it's very important for us to understand that, when we are talking about prana becoming the energy force, we're talking about those five koshas. The annamaya kosha, where your food is very important. Pranamaya kosha, where your breathing process is very important. Manomaya kosha, what are you thinking? What are your companions? What do you do the whole day? So we know very beautifully we move towards pratyahara, isn't it? But all that is because you can transmit and understand that it is creating prana in you, it is manifesting prana in you. Now, prana is universal life. Now I'm saying prana is universal life. It is there inside you, but it is universal. It is around you also. So so whatever we do, whatever moving we feel. Now moving means what? When I tell a lot of like whenever I'm saying this, that anything that is responding to the breath, anything that is moving. So then immediately the question will come that the plants don't move. So do they have prana? Of course they have prana. We're not talking in terms of moving as in, like, I'm a human and I'm moving from one place to another, or an animal which is moving from one place to another. Moving means anything that is getting manifested from one to another. So if you look at a seed, when you actually put the seed in the soil, with the support of the Pancha Mahabhuta, it's transforming itself into the next. So the seed gives up to become a sapling gives itself up to become a tree, and then the tree gives the fruits, and the fruits again give themselves up to again become the seed, and then so and so and so and so. So here we are talking about that energy which is constantly going into manifestation. Now, this is very closely associated with Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. And this is the pranic force that flows between all the three. This is again the same pranic force that moves with Rajas, Tamas, and Satvik. So a person says from Tamasic you should become Rajasic, from Rajasic you should become Satvik. So what will you do? 15-20 days I'm going on a vegan diet. But the person, when becomes vegan diet, that person becomes more upset, that person becomes more agitated, that person becomes more angry, and after that, that person doesn't want to see you again, because that person is very offensively hurt that I went into vegan and I realized, my self realization was, I am a more harmful person than what I was. So please be aware, when we talk about all this, it is at a very pranic level. Only when you shift your prana, automatically the tamasic will move to rajasic. You must have realized in your lifetime, right, that you were a very angry person about something, and something happened and then you overtook. So what was that? It was your pranic energy which gave you that realization. And then you moved into this. So when people shift, become very aware. It is at a pranic level, right? Now, it is not acquired. Now, this is very important. It is not acquired, but originates in the womb and is vital for existence. Now, this line revolves everything, and it tells you the bigger picture of what prana is. So, when we are saying acquire and originate means it is there from the beginning. And acquire means, like, you learned something, like you learned to paint and you acquired how to know it, right? So it's something that you can learn, and over a period of time you can gain. But prana is originated. Now let's see the bigger picture of this. Yes. How did prana create the physical body? So let's talk about ourselves, because you only can understand it through your own experience, right? So let's talk about ourselves. So prana acts like a kumbhar. And what does the kumbhar do? He will mold the formless clay. He'll take the clay and very beautifully he'll mold. So what is prana doing? Think about it with that very dravya, what you call na, the serum. Yeah, with that he has used the pancha mahabhutas that are there in the womb, where she is nurturing, the mother is nurturing, right? And when she's nurturing that, he's using those panchamahabhutas, and he's transmitting that, he's shifting that into limbs and organs. Now it achieves this through a very beautiful way, and that pathway is known as nadis. So think about it for a fraction of a second, that you existed because the prana was there to create this beautiful human being out of that serum. So you can imagine that distance that you covered, and you did not have the intelligence of doing that. But prana did that for you, right? And now we call it as nadis. Now we already have those nadis in us, and this is how we commute the prana, isn't it? So how my limbs are commuting to my mind? It's through prana. And where is the prana flowing? It is flowing in nadis. Now, obviously, this serves as a channel for the energies. Now, these nadis, the prana animates, and it also vitalizes the gross matter, and it also gives rise to the tissues and organs. So this is how we as humans get transmitted. So prana is already in us, and then it is being formed. Okay, this constant movement begins as when we are in the womb. So we know that when did the prana start working on us? When we were in the womb, in the mother's womb. And it now, please listen to this carefully, leaves the physical body at the time of death. So what are we saying? Whose prana is leaving what? Prana is leaving the physical body. It never says prana has left the atma. You never hear people saying ki, the they always talk about the body, the prana has left the body, isn't it? But prana never leaves the atma. It always leaves the body. That means we are very aware that the prana was there in the physical body and it left the body. Now, prana is the fundamental unit of universal life which causes the movement of breath in living beings. So we obviously know that this is the cause. Now, the hidden power inside every person without there and lies there everywhere around us. So we all are sure about it, that we have prana inside us and it is around us, because prana leaves means what? If it's leaving your body, that means it's there somewhere, right? But it's not in your body. That means it's around you, but it's not in your body right now. That body has to now get demolished. It has to go back into pancha mahabhuta. Vileen in pancha mahabhuta is what we say. Now the meaning of prana is constant movement. Its functionality of continuous flow makes it a life force. So please understand here that prana is equal to life force, but where? In your physical form. Now, prana has many layers. Now, let's understand different layers of pranas here. Uh, Now, prana has many layers for the for a physical breathing. Now, when we breathe, obviously, we know that through breath. So, the manifestation of Purusha is breath through prana. That is how it is spoken about. So, prana is a master form of all energy, working at every level of our being. Indeed, the entire universe is manifested out of prana. Now, where are we moving towards? We are a part of something. So, we have to first understand ourselves. So, we understood ourselves, that we have sense organs, how the prana works, then how we got the prana from the womb and all this, and now we are trying to move towards a universal concept. Now here we are saying that it is prana is the one which has manifested the entire universe. Now, even the Kundalini Shakti, when we talk about the Kundalini Shakti, we always hear people saying Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, Sushumna Nadi, yeah, Chaitra Nadi. There are many other nadis that we talk about, and it penetrates through Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. But what is penetrating? The nadis are there, but the flow of that energy is getting penetrated. So what energy is in your Ida Nadi is the same energy in your Pingala Nadi. But when these both nadis are filled with that energy called prana, both together, when comes together, enters the Sushumna Nadi. When this pranic energy extends towards the Sushumna Nadi, then it moves into another inner nadi, and then it penetrates through the three chakras. So all that is prana. Now, the force energy is called, obviously we just spoke about this, that this force is called prana and primary energy, sometimes translated as breath. So very easily people say, for Kundalini you breathe, you do Anulom Vilom, but they don't understand that breathing is a uh, very casual way of talking about prana. But prana is at a very deeper level. Yeah. Now, let's try to find the source of prana. So, where does prana come from? Now, prana, looking at the other textures in all this, we understand that prana stems from Atma. That means it is your soul, it is your true self. It is coming from that. Like we say, no, from Panchamahabhuta, this tree is born. So, where has this prana come from? The prana has come from the Atma. And obviously, Atma comes from Paramatma. Now, the soul has perceived this experience of physical world through the working of prana. So, anything that the soul wants to experience, experiences through the prana, and that is how it is entertaining our physical world. Whether you're looking through your eyes, breathing through your nose, sensing through your skin, or making any decision with your brain, which is called your chitta, is being diagnosed very closely by prana, and that's how the atma gets to know about it. That's why we realize when we are talking a lie, we know what our breath is doing with us. It's easily moving towards your mind and your heart, and your mind and heart is having a conversation while you're lying. And sometimes when you're being honest, when you're being polite, when you're being kind, again there is a communication between your heart and mind, right? And your throat lies in between that. So you have to be, so they say, think before you speak. Now, prana is working behind every mechanism of the body. In this way, the soul experiences the physical world through the body and mind. So we just got a little gist of where did the prana come from. Now, when we talk about prana, we need to understand that how it is being um, executed into these different shariras, right? Because we say that it's an energy form, but it is also governing the body, it is also governing the cosmic energy. So all this comes into picture, and we talk about this 5 layers of koshas. Now there are multiple Upanishads, there are 1008 Upanishads, out of which 108 are very important, and out of which 18 are a must before we leave this place. We need to understand all of them to just come very close to understanding what they want to say. So every mother has her own way of explaining the child the same moral etiquettes, but they have their different stories. In the same way, Upanishad also is going around telling you different stories based on their experiences, so that they can take you very close to the pranic energy, because that is the only source for you to realize self awareness, to get close to your soul or atma. Now, this is segregated into, so in Tretya Upanishad, they have spoken about the 5 koshas, the 5 layers of human bodies. But you know what? When we talk about these 5 layers, most of the time there's a question, will prana get affected? Is there any effect of this at the time of age, time, space? Now, if we remember Patanjali Yoga Sutra also, at the time of Antar and Bahi Ranga, the breathing processes that he's spoken about, because he's not spoken about asanas a lot. He's spoken about pranayam there, but in very beautiful way he just says that, desha bandha. So he's talking about the same thing. He's telling that some people might be at a very age, some people might not be at that age, and they can do all the asanas and everything. So age, time, and space, let's see how this work, how prana works on this, right? And how we move towards the sadhana as a spiritual practice, because everything at the end ends up at the spiritual practice. Now, at Annamaya Kosha is called the physical body. So obviously, depending on your age, your flexibility, strength, mobility depends. That means your pranic energy of your flexibility, strength, and mobility will differ. It becomes important for you to adopt to those practices that can be accommodated at that particular age of yours. So, if a person says, okay, I am now, like, let me take my example, I'm 50 years old. If I want to behave like a 25 years old, it will not work for me. But if I've been practicing that, then it is very comfortable. So, no two people are the same. So, they always need to get into their realm of their life and understand at Annamaya Kosha, what are my barriers? Why am I doing it? What is it that my body needs? And that is exactly where Ayurveda comes into existence. So, at a physical body, you need to maintain it so that you have a healthy life and you can move ahead with your vitality. That is your pranic energy. Then at Pranamaya Kosha, obviously we spoke about Pranamaya Kosha, it is a energy body. Now here it talks about the vital energy and the stamina. Now practicing the breathing for revitalizing this pranic flow is very important. And we have multiple pranayams to be done so that we can move ahead. And when we are doing different pranayams, what is the main goal of that pranayam? The main goal of that pranayam is mental clarity, the vision that is created out of that, and emotional well-being. This is something very important that is required in today's time, because we are emotionally depending on everything. Somebody, Valentine's Day, somebody has got a bouquet, I didn't get a bouquet. Emotionally we go drained off. We could do this, somebody couldn't do that, we get drained off. 10 years back I wanted to do that, I couldn't do it, now emotionally drained out. So we realize that well-being doesn't mean you get everything and then you are happy, or you don't get anything and you are happy. You have to realize that everything is temporary and what is permanent is your bliss. So anything that makes you happy, irrespective of any kind of situations that you have in your life, that is what is called pranamaya kosha. So your fluctuations of your breath will always tell you at what stage you are. So that is where you read yourself, isn't it? And that is when the manomaya kosha comes into existence. So I don't know, as a child, most of the time parents would say, before you go to sleep, recall what you did in your entire day. So recalling was not about I did my maths homework, I did my English homework, I did my Hindi homework, and I was playing and I did this. What does that tell you? That tells you that you were disciplined, you did certain things, you did not do certain. It is a reevaluation of your own mind. And if you get pleasure out of doing wrong things, then you need to come back to who you are, isn't it? Because as humans, we are always supposed to be kind, we are always supposed to be giving, we are always supposed to be thankful, and that's one of the reasons we have bhakti yoga, isn't it? We have karma yoga. All that is to understand where we are and move towards that. Not that we read the textures and we do it only on that day, and when we are doing simple small things, we forget about it. Because kankanata bote, that means it is there in every cell of yours and it is getting registered. And if it's getting registered in every cell of yours, it is getting transmitted through prana to your atma. So you can lie to everybody, but you can't lie to your own self. Now coming back to this yoga practice, yoga practitioners, like meditation, mindfulness, and relaxing techniques can help calm the mind. Again, the same thing, we use all these techniques to calm ourselves, but end of the day we know that these techniques can be genuinely working for us only when we understand the prana. This improves our concentration. Obviously, it will improve our concentration because we don't have any distractions in our life. If you're getting, you'll be happy. If you're not getting, you'll be happy. So every single day, your dharana and dhyan is moving ahead. You know, So sometimes you can take a pause, like the way you're climbing a mountain, you can take a pause and again continue with your journey. But if you get drifted and if you slip, then obviously, even in dharana and dhyan, when you slip way far away, and again you have to start your journey, right? So obviously, it supports the mental health and well-being. Now, Vijnanamaya Kosha. Now, Vijnanamaya Kosha, wisdom body. What it talks about at the wisdom body is it represents the higher intelligence. So, we are not talking. So, when we understand ourselves correctly, we start uniting ourselves to something which is more supreme and superior, right? So, we gain a deeper insight of our wisdom from life experience. So, previously, people would say, when they age, the wisdom comes. But in today's time, just because you're aging, wisdom will not come because we don't have those practices that people did maybe 40 years back, 50 years back, because I don't remember any of our parents not doing puja archana, not going to temple and being, very open heartedly they would donate. They lived in a very, I won't say they had scarcity of what they lived, but they were very content in what they lived. They always believed in not just in today's time we have this concept of loan लेके चले जाएंगे घूमने बाद में we'll do. So these are the things we need to realize to what extent we are doing this and what extent it is affecting our thought process, our mind, right? But it is again personal choice of everyone. Now, in Vijnanamaya Kosha, the yoga sadhak can further enhance these aspects by becoming self-aware and bringing in spiritual growth. So certainly when you follow this, the Vijnan will open up to yourself. So this is not something that you learn. This comes with the practice, and that's the reason why it will open up to you. So awareness will always open up the journey towards spirituality. So they say now when time is right, you will do it. So this is what they talk about. Till you don't do things right, your time will not come. Because for spirituality, time is never a constraint. And that's the reason why people always believe ये जन्म में नहीं तो अगले जन्म में कर लेंगे. But the time will only come when you work towards it. No, practice such as self-inquiry and study of Vedic texts help. Now, again, the same thing, self-inquiry is very important. Why are you doing, what you're doing it, how are you doing it, what is the pleasure you're getting out of it? All this is very important. And then after this, you also read the Vedic texts. It's very important we read Vedic texts so that we have higher consciousness and wisdom. So we always look upon the gurus in around us because they are the one who are at that level and they can always give us wisdom. Now Anandamaya Kosha, which is the bliss body where prana is deeply connected. Now the bliss body that refers the essence of pure joy. This is pure joy and bliss. So through yoga sadhana, individuals can gradually transcend the limitations and the limitations of age. Now here the limitations of age completely gets eradicated. So if you take examples of Gnaneshwari or any of these textures, these were written by very young gurus. They were in today's time we wouldn't even consider that those kids that highly enlightened. So they were highly enlightened and they had this perspective of breaking the age as uh, a boundary. There was no boundary for spiritual growth. So I personally feel anyone who has that kind of a vision in today's time also can transcend. But the thing is, because we are in Kal Yuga, we get very easily drifted away, which is towards our senses, and it gets difficult for us. Otherwise, the spiritual path is very easy because it keeps you free from all the unwanted negative things that we see around us. So cultivating a sense of contentment, gratitude, and inner peace through the practice of devotion, self-services, and surrendering allows one to experience the profound stage of bliss. So obviously, this is again in Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, isn't it? All these yoga talk about this, and this is what brings you towards the contentment and inner peace. Now, while aging may be represented in physical and mental challenges, Yoga Sadhana offers a holistic approach to maintain health, vitality, and spiritual well-being across all levels of existence, allowing individual to age gracefully and being very self-satisfied. So, aging has to always be beautiful, and that can only happen when we are actually following this path. Now, coming back to the pranayam, and we are talking about prana. Obviously, we know that there are these 10 main pranas, and we all know about it because we all have already come across this in our uh, syllabus of yoga, right? So we talk about prana, apana, udana, vana, and samana. These are the main pranas, and then there are the five pancha pranas. Now, coming to the pranayam, pranayam again is one of the limbs in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, right? And he has spoken about this in a very beautiful way that we had also seen before. Now, if you have to see what is the difference between this first five prana and the Upapranas, in Girana Samhita, he speaks about this as the first five pranas are the inner vayus. So if we say where is Samana Vayu, you can't show, right? But if you have to speak about the next five Upapranas, which is Naga, Kurma, Devadatta, and these other five, it is the outer Vayu. So you will see hiccups when you do feel it. When you're blinking your eyes, you can see it, right? So these are the things which are outer. That means physical body can realize it. But the inner Vayu, which is the Pancha Pranas, you can only speak about it as the feeling that you have, as the way you can feel it inside you. So let's see this now. In very brief, I'm going to go about this because we all are aware of this. So prana, this is the upward moving. So we know prana is at the upper side where it takes care of the functions of respiratory, circulation, and communication. Now apanavayu is downward and it governs the digestion and eliminates the waste. Vana is the energy that circulates in the entire body and is the main source for movement and coordination. So, Vana is the one which coordinates between all the other pranas and it keeps up with the moving and coordination. It's responsible for distributing the prana to all the parts of the body and maintain the equilibrium. Then comes the Udana. This is an energy source which again works upwards and is responsible for speech, swallowing, and ability to stand up. So anything that we are lifting, we lift our hand, we lift our leg, we move our body and lift our body. So what makes us get up and sit? It is the Udana. So one of the things that Udana works is it is responsible for taking our Atma, the prana, out of our body. So Udana is responsible for this. Then Samana. Samana is the energy responsible for digestion. So it is the most important one because it observes the food that the digestion that is happening in the body. It keeps up with the metabolism, absorption of the nutrients, and the movement of food into energy, converting the food into energy. So I'm just going in a very brief here because there's a little more to cover. And obviously the apana vayu, obviously we know about this. All right. So when we talk about Ashtanga Yoga, we again engage in prana here. Now, when we talk about this particular one, it again talks about attaining and controlling the life force. Now, when we talk about prana, how do we implement it? So these are the 8 limbs that we can very easily work on to vitalize and control the movement of our prana and enhance it in ourselves. So obviously we have yamas, niyamas, asanas, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So little bit of this has already been explained in the previous slides, that when we are doing this, we are following yamas, niyamas. When we are doing this posture corrections, we are cleansing, we are making sure the nadis are getting good stretches, so that the nervous systems work well, and because through that only the nadis are transmitting their prana. Now, pranayam, we did speak about pranayam. Pratyahara is withdrawal of your senses. Be content in what you get. Realize what you're doing in your lifetime. Realize what is your relationship with everybody. How is it projected? What is it? So, all this. Then dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Obviously, dharana is the concentration. We were talking about it. Then dhyan is the meditative aspect. And samadhi happens, isn't it? So this is very beautifully explained in this one sutra of Patanjali. Now, when we have to speak about pranayam, we have this understanding that prana is energy and ayam is nothing but control. So when we talk about prana, we know this is the component. And when we talk about the rule, how to work on it, it is the ayam. That means you stretch, you make sure it is regular and it is continuous, it is balanced, and that's how you control. So this is how the yogic breathing is done. So now when we know right, we talk about it at the belly level, we talk about it at the thoracic level, and the um, uh, at the cavity level. Now, the pelvic level. Now, samhita pranayam. Now, there are two kinds of pranayams here. One is sagarbha and nigarbha. What we are talking about in this pranayam is one, when we are doing certain pranayam, we do chanting. And the other one is without chanting. That means you're focusing on your breath, but you're not doing chanting. So, very simple example is when we are breathing, we always focus, and in our mind, we are saying so hum, isn't it? We all have done this so hum at least once, because we are coming from the Ayush ministry and we know about it. So this practice is called the Bija mantra and Nirabij mantra. That means one is with Bija mantra and the other one is without Bij mantra. So we know we're just talking about little exercises that we do according to pranayam, but there is a very deeper meaning when we do Bija mantra and Nirbija mantra. Okay, now there are different kinds of pranayam, obviously, which talks about inner, then we talk about retaining those, yeah, and we talk about antaranga, bahiranga, then we talk about the kavali state, where it is as a pause by itself and not being done or initiated by us. So it is passive retention is what you can say. The other two are active retentions. Then these are the different pranayams that we have learned in our yogic texts, the Surya Bhedi, Ujjayi, Shitali, Shitkari, Brahmari, Murcha, Plavani, and Bastrika. So multiple of them, but again, they all talk about prana. They all direct you towards prana. The only thing is, when all this was being introduced, understand that first, when Patanjali was written, people had a very healthy body, mind, and they always looked upon moving towards the dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. As the things got deteriorated, then Hatha Yoga came into place, where it spoke about first physically be fit so that you can sit in meditation and perform it. That's where Chikitsalaya was added into it, and the components of all this had come into existence, and everybody started practicing it more often. Again, because it got more deteriorated, Giranya Samhita came into existence, where it says it doesn't matter, you have to do your kriyas. Because what is going in your body is creating unwanted stuff. It's creating blockages in your body. So first clean. Your vessel is not clean. And that's where the kriyas came into existence, and it was a must to do the kriyas. Whereas in other textures, you will see kriya was not even spoken about. In Patanjali, we can't even think about he's speaking about kriyas because it is understood. Because when Patanjali starts his first sutra, he says that now that you are ready, Ataha Yoga Anushasana. That means now that you're ready to do this, let's understand what you should be doing. So it was taken for granted that you have already got eligible to do this. So we have eligibility criteria, right? Right now also we have eligibility criteria while we are doing these sessions, that we should be Ayush Ministry pass, so that we at least understand the basics. So the same thing is implied everywhere, right? So understand, whenever you're picking up any texture, please understand where did it start from. Are we at that level, or we need to go back and learn something and then start the textures so we can get complete understanding of it. So now again, this is again the same thing where we speak about different pranayams. What are their benefits in very silent form, where we focus on inhalations, exhalations. It talks about the psychological effect. So normally when we are training any kind of a person in how to come out of depression, how to come out of anxiety, how to feel comfortable in their own body, if they have fear of death, if they have fear of losing something, if they have fear, competence, today's time children have this problem, restlessness is there. All these can be solved by pranayam, provided we need to know what pranayam needs to be activated at what time, and how that person has to take it at certain durations. And that can be explained by many other people who have done Ayurvedic studies and other stuff. Now, even the physiotherapist, we all do this, right? And then obviously, what are the effects of it? So how it calms your body down, how emotionally it is calming, whether it is at the muscle relaxing level. Like, if you take Chandra Bhedi and Surya Bhedi, we wouldn't say it is our body temperature. We would say it is a weather temperature. So if you are in India, you will obviously, you're very comfortable to do both. But if you are living in some other country, those countries are extremes. The same way, when yogis used to travel to different countries, we know a lot of yogis are from Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, they come from Himalayas, they would do Surya Bheti. But a person who is coming from the other extreme, where there is hot climate, then that person would do Chandra Bhedi. So we need to understand these pranayams to make sure that we enhance the right energy, because understand, energy is not wrong. But if you are inviting that energy which is not right for you, directed energy you've directed is very important. So again, what are the contraindications? So we have to understand the contraindications and then perform it, right? So it's very important that we educate the person before we start pranayams with them. Now, while we're here, and why is it a little bit important changed? Witnessing the consciousness that remain untouched by the fluctuations of our five koshas is the prana, that is cosmic energy, or that is a cosmic awareness, or that is a cosmic prana we are talking about. So what are we saying? What we have in our five koshas is the manifested form of prana. That means there is another unmanifested form of prana that is around you and above. We are going to from Prakriti, and the prana is coming from Purusha. So likewise, when Pancha Mahabhuta manifest, they manifest into human, they manifest into trees, animals, birds. It's a creation that it is constantly manifesting, and the three realms are being working on it. That is the Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, which is the creation, then the destruction, and then the end is the destruction. Sorry. Okay, now let's understand the cosmic form of it. So cosmic energy is the life force of existence. So what is this? I'll take you directly to this because of the time constraint. We always say, whenever we pray, Om Bhur Bhuvas Swaha. We always say this, right? Why is it that as a humans we are always praying Bhur Bhuvas Swaha? Because we are saying Bhu is our earth, Bhuva is the space where we have our energy form, our ancestors, Pitrus we talk about. Then Swaha is the God, the Bhagwan, the God Loka. Now think about it, when you see this Ganesh festival or when you see any temple being organized. Have you heard this word called Prana Pratishtha? Yeah. So Prana Pratishtha means what? That means a god also comes and the Prana Pratishtha is done to him. That means even he revolves around the prana. He is connected to prana. Even our ancestors, when the body leaves, when the body is left, the prana is taking the atma. So the atma is with the prana. The prana is with the body, without the body, that is your astral body, and then it is with the gods also in prana. That's the reason why in our first shloka, what did we hear? Prana sedam vashe sarvam. That means it is in Vash. Everybody is in Vash of Prana. Vashe Sarvam Tridive Yat Pratishtitam, and it has its hold on all the three realms of the world. So believe, understand, listen carefully what this particular shloka says. It says that it governs all the three lokas. And that's the reason why what we are doing is transmitted through our karmas through the prana and it goes into the jiva. So it's a other level of. The last slide, when a person is in love, and research papers have given this. So people who do therapy, people who are very good at this will understand that these are the 12 components that are being released and that's how you feel. The same thing happens with a bhakta. He doesn't have to understand anatomy, he doesn't have to understand the textures, he might not be a person who can read and write, but he still faces that amazing transformation in himself and he can transcend it into dharana, dhyan, and samadhi at a very higher level. So, this is something that we learn from our textures. This is what we purely learn at our yogic text. And obviously, we work on these dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, and that is how we go into the different states of meditation. These are the different state of meditations we do.
Gayatri, sorry to
And
interrupt.
yeah,
Yeah, time हो गया है actually.
yeah. So we are done with this. Sorry for taking a long time. So if you
So
have
if you
any
have any